Welcome friends to this last in the series on the week that shook the world. Today we're looking at the last song. What were the words? We don't know for sure. But we do read this in Matthew 26. I say to you, I'll not drink of this fruit of the vine from now until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom. And when he had sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. And as they meeting and sharing this sacred Passover meal, they turned it into a time of singing. It was a custom, but how amazing would it be if we could look into what the words of that song were. Well, some think it was from Psalm 118, and it's very prophetic of what happens to Jesus. From verse 17, I will not die, but live and tell of the works of the Lord. And in Acts we read, whom God raised up, having loosed the pains of death, because it was not possible that he should be held by it. They sang of one alive from the dead. Verse 18, the Lord has disciplined me severely, but he has not given me over to death. Our sin-bearing Saviour. He released Barabbas to them, and when he had scourged Jesus, he delivered him to be crucified. We read of the suffering of Jesus being a discipline, a punishment from God, certainly not for his own sin, but for the sins of the world. In verse 19 of this hymn, open to me the gates of righteousness, I shall enter through them. I shall give thanks to the Lord. This is the gate of the Lord. The righteous will enter through it. Jesus taught, enter by the narrow gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leads to destruction, and there are many who go in by it. Jesus is the gate to our freedom. He is the gate for our salvation. He is the gate to the narrow way. He is the gate to righteousness, and we thank God that we've come to know that. In Psalm 118, the song goes on of one who was rejected, but raised. The stone which the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone, reminding him of how important he was to the whole message and plan of God's salvation. So that's Psalm 118 and parts of it. And the psalm being the Bible's hymn book, I wonder if the psalm that they sang was from Psalm 22, where it's full of prophecy that's fulfilled as Jesus goes to the cross. It starts, my God, why have you forsaken me? We read of Jesus on the cross. He cried out with a loud voice saying, my God, why have you forsaken me? As he carries the sins of the world, he identifies himself with this prayer. Oh my God, I cry in the daytime, but you do not hear, in the night seasons and am not silent. In the 6th hour until the 9th hour there was darkness over all the land while Jesus was on the cross. In the day which turned to night, he also cried upon his Father. The prophecy was fulfilled. In verse 6, but I am despised by the people. All those who see me ridicule me, they shake their head. And again on the cross, as prophecy fulfilled, Jesus saw those who passed him by wagging their heads and saying, you who destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself if you're the Son of God, come down from the cross. Imagine that this is the song that the apostles are singing with Jesus, not understanding really what was about to happen. They shake their head saying, he trusted in the Lord, let him rescue him, let him deliver him, since he delights in him. And again in Matthew we read, he trusted in God, let him deliver him now if he will have him, for he said, I am the Son of God. Another prophecy fulfilled. Be not far from me, for trouble is near, for there is none to help, was part of this song. The prophecy was fulfilled when the disciples forsook him and fled, but everyone had fled. Here's an interesting one. Many bulls have surrounded me. Strong bulls of Bashan have encircled me. They gape at me with their mouths like a raging and roaring lion. What is this Bashan? Well, in Jesus' time, Bashan was an area that was covered under Roman rule, and legions raised by Caesar mostly carried a bull emblem originally. So this tells of the Romans who were surrounding Jesus, and they were the ones who drove the nails into his hands and his feet. Crucifixion is described in this song. I'm poured out like water, and all my bones are out of joint. My heart is like wax, it has melted within me. My strength is dried up, my tongue clings to my jaws. You have brought me to the dust of death. I can count all my bones. They look and stare at me. You have to understand that crucifixion had never happened until the time of the Romans. And so 1,000 years from when this song was written, we see it truly fulfilled in Jesus. In verse 16, the congregation of the wicked has enclosed me. They pierced my hands and my feet. And yet he was nailed to the cross. Nails didn't hold Jesus to the cross. Love did. Love for us. They divided my garments among them, and for my clothing they cast lots. They crucified him and divided his garments, casting lots. The prophecy was fulfilled word to word when the Roman soldiers gambled over his clothes to keep as a souvenir or maybe sell. And in verse 20, deliver me from the sword. You have answered me. Jesus is in the garden, and the multitudes came to him, and he said, have you come out as against a robber with swords and clubs to take me? I sat with you teaching in the temple, and you did not seize me. The sword was not the method of his execution. Prophecy fulfilled. I'll declare your name to my brethren, and in the midst of the assembly I'll praise you. And in Jesus' resurrection, the disciples are assembled. They're in fear and hiding. Jesus came and stood in the midst and said to them, peace be with you. And he showed them his hands and his side. And they were glad when they saw the Lord. What a time of rejoicing and praise that was, knowing that he's actually alive. He has not despised nor abhorred the affliction of the afflicted, nor has he hidden his face from him. When he cried to him, he heard. And in the last of the things Jesus said on the cross, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. Having said this, he breathed his last. Knowing that he'd come from the Father, and to the Father he was about to return, he cries to the Father, and the Father hears him. And at the end of our song, all the families of the nations shall worship before you. The people in the future will serve him. They will also be told about the Lord. They will tell that he does what is right. People who are not yet born will hear what God has done. And this prophecy is yet to be fulfilled. It's partly fulfilled in those of us who believe, but it will be completely fulfilled in Revelation. It tells us, a great multitude which no one could number, of all nations, tribes, peoples, and tongues, standing before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes, with palm branches in their hands, and crying out with a loud voice, saying, salvation belongs to our God, who sits on the throne, and to the Lamb. Jesus sat with the disciples. He broke bread. He gave a new covenant, and he sang a last song. I wonder if it was that Psalm 22. That song that had been sung throughout the nation of Israel for so many years, fulfilled in Jesus Christ. And that last hope and promise that we have is that we will be part of a great multitude, every nation, every tribe and tongue, gathered before him, singing his praise throughout all eternity. Don't you want to be a part of that? Trust in Jesus today, friend. Put your faith in him, and may God bless you as you look to him for the future.